In the valley of Elah, the air shimmered with heat and fear. For 40 days, Israel's army had stood still, hearts heavy, spirits broken. Across the plain, their enemies, the Philistines, stood bold and proud, their drums pounding like thunder over the earth. From their ranks rose a mountain of a man, Goliath of Gath, the terror of the battlefield. His armor gleamed like polished fire, his bronze shield reflecting the cruel sun. His spear was like a weaver's beam, thick and sharp, glinting with the promise of death. Every morning he strode forward and mocked the army of Israel. His voice rolled through the valley, loud, deep, and merciless. "Send me a man," he cried. "Let him fight me if he dares." And yet none came. The hearts of Israel's bravest men trembled like leaves in the wind. Even King Saul, who once led with courage, now stood in silence, his armor heavy, his faith dim. Fear ruled the valley that day, and faith was nowhere to be found. Far from the valley of fear, in the quiet hills of Bethlehem, lived a boy named David, the youngest son of Jesse. He spent his days among the sheep, the wind in his hair, his harp in hand. His music rose with the morning sun and faded with the setting light. His heart was pure, his faith unshaken. When danger came, when lions roared or bears crept from the shadows, he did not run. He took his sling and trusted in the God who watched over him. One stone, one strike, and the beast would fall. For though his hands were young, his spirit was strong. David's courage came not from himself, but from the living God who walked beside him in every valley and every storm. One morning, the quiet of Bethlehem was broken by a father's call. "David, my son," said Jesse, "take this food to your brothers in the battlefield and bring me news of their safety." David obeyed at once, his heart willing, his spirit calm. His mother watched with tender eyes, whispering a prayer as he tied his bag and walked toward the hills. He did not know that this journey would change his life forever. When David reached the camp, the smell of dust and fear filled the air. He heard the giants' taunts echoing through the valley, shaking the courage of every man. His brothers rebuked him. "Why are you here? Go back to your sheep," they said in anger. But David's heart burned within him. He turned toward the giant, his young face steady, his eyes aflame with purpose. "Is there not a cause?" he said softly. While others saw an undefeatable warrior, David saw something else, a man who dared to defy the living God. When news of David's courage reached the king, Saul sent for him. Inside the royal tent, the boy bowed low before Israel's weary leader. Saul looked upon him with doubt. "You are but a child, he said. "This man has been a warrior since his youth." But David's voice did not tremble. "My Lord," he said, "the Lord who saved me from the lion and the bear will save me from this Philistine." Moved by his faith, Saul took off his armor and placed it upon the boy. But David could barely stand beneath its weight. He smiled and said, "I cannot go in these. My trust is not in armor, but in the God who delivers." And in that moment, Saul saw what fear had made him forget, that victory belongs not to the strong, but to the faithful. The valley held its breath. The giant roared, seeing the shepherd boy approach. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" But David lifted his voice, his words ringing through heaven and earth. "You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, whom you have defied." He raised his sling, one motion, one stone, and faith took flight. The wind carried it true. The giant stumbled, then fell face first into the dust. The valley thundered, and the armies watched in awe. The Lord had delivered victory through the hands of a shepherd. Israel's soldiers erupt in cheers, raising their swords high as the Philistines flee. Saul watches in stunned silence, his eyes following the boy who stands beside the fallen giant. David lifts his hands to the heavens, whispering a prayer of thanks. Behind him, the setting sun bathes the valley in gold. And so the battle was won, not by might nor by power, but by faith. The Philistines fled, their pride broken, and there stood David, the shepherd who believed. The Lord had turned his courage into victory, his faith into history. The people would remember his name, not for the stone he threw, but for the faith that guided it. Thousands of years have passed since David faced his giant in the valley of Elah, but the truth of his courage still echoes today. You may not stand before a man of great height, but every one of us faces giants: fear, doubt, failure, or injustice. They rise before us tall and loud, daring us to give up. Yet the story of David reminds us that true strength does not come from armor or weapons. It comes from faith, vision, and the courage to act when others freeze. Sometimes your greatest battle will be fought in silence, in your heart, in your mind, when no one believes in you but God. Like David, believe that what you carry inside you is enough. A small stone of faith can bring down a giant of fear. So when the world shouts that you are too young, too small, too late, remember the shepherd boy who changed history with nothing but trust. Stand firm. Face your giants. For faith is not the absence of fear, it is the power to move forward despite it.